young people turn away from the political process and voting, we look at a lesson on campaigning that engages their interests and concerns. With democratic engagement at the heart of the citizenship curriculum, citizenship teacher John Sander believes that student-led lesson content is the way forward.
Citizenship is a relatively new subject. There is an area of knowledge that must be taught about encouraging the students to be active in democratic participation. And I think you've got to get onto the students' level. You've got to engage them with a subject or a topic which they are interested in.
Paulette North at City Academy Bristol values the range of topics that can be discussed within citizenship.
Citizenship enables you to talk about issues that perhaps we weren't allowed to talk about before, like homophobia, bullying, immigration and nationality. But I do feel that it shouldn't just be pigeonholed in citizenship, that in English, maths, science, history, geography. So although I think citizenship is an excellent subject, I do worry sometimes that what might happen is that, we'll leave it to citizenship.
At Ullswater Community College, there is a commitment to democratic engagement as an active principle by encouraging students' participation in college management as well as lesson content. In this way, Ullswater aims to make democratic engagement both a political and educative principle. But can schools really be democratic institutions?
I think in the past schools have historically not been democratic, far from it, but now I think society has changed and we have to move with the times, and we have to give students a kind of ownership of what's going on within the school environment and actually within the lessons. Ullswater is trying to make the school a more democratic institution by giving the students a voice. We're encouraging our students to opt in to changes, to advocate changes through our college councils.
A change in the school uniform from the formality of a shirt and tie to the more casual look and feel of a polo shirt was a direct result of student consultation.
To me, the whole ethos of a school should be based around the citizenship curriculum.
The letters.
John encourages democratic engagement with a lesson in campaigning. Details of the lesson plan can be found on the Teachers TV website.
What we're actually going to work on, we're going to work on 4 campaign strategies. But if we just have a look at the whiteboard first, we'll just go through them and we'll answer 1 or 2 questions. The right to vote at 16.
Regarding voting at 16, it's probably a $1 million question, but it's certainly one that the students can get their teeth into, providing you have your parents' consent. You can get married, they can have sex at 16, but they don't have a right to vote for a local MP or have a say in how the country is actually run.
OK, what is the definition of tax or income tax? Come on, somebody make my day. Okay.
Is it the money that you get taken away from the wages you get?
Brilliant. And where does it go?
Government.
Brilliant. It goes to the government to pay for this classroom, to pay for the road that you came to school on, to pay for the army. What age can you join the army? OK, Fiona, what age do you reckon? Have a go. Doesn't matter if you're wrong. We're all in this together.
16.
Brilliant. You can join the army at 16. So you can fight for your country, but what possibly can't you do? Yeah?
You can't vote.
Brilliant. You can't vote. Just have a think about that.
I think engaging students in democracy is essential to our future. If you look at the latest statistics from the age group from 18 to 24, there has been a vast fall in the number of young adults actually voting. They will all vote perhaps for Big Brother or Fame Academy, but when it comes to going to a polling booth, they can't be bothered, they're switched off. Students are interested in politics, but they're probably not interested in politicians at the moment.
David Coulson-Lowes from nearby Caldew School also feels student-led interests help develop participation in our democracy.
If we were to look at something like politics and the electoral process, a lot of people are thinking, well, what do I teach? Do I get a textbook out and teach a very dry idea? You know, that in some way, if pupils understand the cabinet system of democracy in our country, that they will be more willing to go and vote. Well, I tend to look at it from the other direction, which is, well, what issues affect young people? And what are young politicians going to do about those concerns?
Back in the campaign lesson, John explores the students' engagement in whale preservation.
Tom, I know you're an expert on whaling because you keep stopping me wherever I go. So do you want to tell me a little bit about your knowledge about whaling?
Yeah, okay. The Japanese, they're persuading countries like Chad, who don't have any coastline, to put money into whaling, and the Japanese are whaling for them.
If you're a Japanese person or a Norwegian, your views might be different to ours. You know, very much so.
I would hope that they would research which countries were involved in whaling. They would perhaps empathise with the history behind that, but they would also have their own comments on their feelings about, you know, actually killing the whale.
Why are people so emotional, so emotive about it? You know? Becky?
Whales are more endangered.
Brilliant.
There's less of them.
Certain species are much more endangered. There's not as many of them, and it would be a poor world if we lost them. Right, the third one. To elect a UC student onto the Youth Parliament. Does anybody know anything about the Youth Parliament? What would make somebody a good representative? Think of the whole school, 1,300. What would make somebody special?
The UK Parliament, I think, is a fairly new initiative, and they're keen for students to be involved. A lot of other European countries have youth parliaments.
Local events can offer many opportunities to engage pupils politically. In the Cumbrian town of Wigton, the police chief imposed a curfew on young people during the school holidays. The curfew banned young people under 16 from being out without a guardian between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. There was such a strong reaction that the Cumbrian School of Caldew started campaigning against curfews, with the support of their citizenship teacher, David Coulson-Lowes.
I didn't particularly look towards rallying them and saying, this is good, this is bad. I simply said, what's your opinion? Let's look at the information. Let's look at what actually happened. Let's look at other people's points of view. All right, how can we influence this? Well, why don't you try writing to your local MP or to the local chief constable? Which is what they did, and I think they were pleasantly surprised by the fact that they got responses from these people. The local newspaper became involved and tried to get both sides of the argument, and both sides had a good argument. However, I think it was the notion that it was a blanket curfew, that every teenager under the age of 16 was included in this, and that's what angered a lot of young people who just felt as if they'd been stereotyped.
More recently, a 15-year-old from Surrey challenged the curfew law and won a High Court ruling. Well-organised campaigns, it seems, can be a powerful means to engage young people in politics. John Sanders' last campaign exercise works from the local to the global by looking at a campaign for sustainable Cumbrian tourism.
Which is one dear to my heart, okay, to promote Cumbria as an eco-holiday centre. Does anybody tell me, what is eco-tourism? Eco-tourism. Go on then, Alex.
Tourism that's friendly to the environment.
Brilliant. You know, what's special about, say, Cumbria or even Northern England? What's so special about it? Kat?
It's kind of like remote, but not remote at the same time.
Okay, can you qualify that?
Like, you can have a town, but then you can drive 5 minutes and you're like in mountains.
Brilliant, yeah. Go on, James, add to that.
Lots of big physical features that are different to like in the city or...
That's right. So we've got some rural areas, some remote areas, and they're fairly accessible.
My aim regards the ecotourism is to have my students nurture the environment that they're from. And if everybody has a local impact, it will have a global impact. I think that's my starting point, to look after and appreciate the environment. And then they have to persuade people who perhaps don't to do that.
The lesson aims to develop a variety of campaigning skills, including research techniques, information sources and communication strategies.
So,
writing a campaign manifesto. The intention is to expand critical thinking and subject knowledge.
Stick to the path.
Like make sure that you always use like the gates and shut them and stuff. So
Good, yeah. What are they following if they do that?
Country code.
Brilliant, yeah, they're following the country code.
While in speech writing, The aim is to develop sensitivity to the power and potentially manipulative nature of words and language.
Vote for Team 16. The future is in your hands.
Very good, Laura.
You should like totally close eyes. This is my stage direction. Close eyes. Wipe away a tear.
With a campaign poster, the lesson intends to expand the visual communication vocabulary by sensing the emotive nature of images.
There we go. Right. It's going to go upside down now.
And by writing a press release, the aim is to develop the use of concise and clear language.
Or you should have a cross at the bottom, right? Because on the election things, on the voting slips, you put a cross, don't you? On the
OK, so we'll have our presentation. There's a nice area I've cleared here, so fire away. Off we go.
Hi, my name is James and I'm representing the UK Youth Parliament. I'm here saying thank you for you electing me and for supporting me. Student voice. Do you not think you should have a say in how your school is run? We are abolishing unnecessary exams. More or better sex education lessons in schools.
Over to the whalers.
Do whales have rights?
Question mark.
That is not the question. The question is...
Do humans have the right to murder beautiful mammals?
Vote at 16, the right to vote at 16.
You know many 16-year-olds join the army? If they can go out to war and fight and even die for our country, then how come they can't vote at 16 to improve it? I ask you that. Why can we have children legally at 16? Then if we can do that, then why can't we change the future for our younglings? Voting gives you the right to change the country for the better. Doing this, 16-year-olds will go home at the end of the day thinking, my vote made a difference. Vote for Team 16. The future is in your hands. Very dramatic. A lot of
schools there. Democracy is a thing which always evolves. It will always change. These students in front of me are our future, and they should be allowed to challenge and change things.
I think schools ignore citizenship at their own peril. And if you really want to make a difference to young people, you've got to invest in them. And it's risky, and there's times when you might not like the outcome of it. But if you do it, the pupils nearly always respond in a positive way. My message will be, watch out. Because we're equipping these young people. We've opened the door, and we can't close it again. It's been interesting over the last few years to teach citizenship, because I believe that people were very concerned that young people didn't know about our political institutions, our democracy, the way in which our law courts worked. I've tended to find, by teaching it, that, yeah, they need to acquire a certain amount of knowledge, but generally speaking, young people know a lot about these things. They're probably better informed than people were in previous generations. And technology's had something to do with that. The real challenge, I think, which will be the next stage, is that young people are knowledgeable, they are skilled, but they're choosing not to participate. That, to me, is the real issue that needs to be addressed. Why is it these young people know how to vote, understand what voting's about, understand the importance of democracy, but they're saying, I'm not going to vote?